Functions in Python allow you to break down a program into smaller manageable pieces which are easy to understand and maintain. Functions abstract away the implementation details, allowing you to focus on high-level logic of your program. Well-named functions make your code more readable and self-explanatory. Functions make it easier to test individual parts of your code, improving the debugging process. You can reuse functions in different parts of your code, reducing redundancy and saving time. The five most common mistakes which programmers make while using functions are: most programmers forget to use the return statement in a function or use it incorrectly, which leads to an unexpected behavior. Failing to pass required arguments to a function or not providing default values for optional arguments is another common mistake that results in errors. Misunderstanding variable scope can lead to bugs. Using global variables when local ones should be used or vice versa can cause unexpected behavior. Not including a base case in a recursive function can lead to infinite recursion and a program crash. Lastly, creating too many small functions can make the code harder to follow. Finding the right balance between function size and complexity is essential. Let's move on to declaring and using functions in Python. Now what we did in this function was that in the first statement, first line, we use the keyword def and gave a name to our function, which is sample function, and we declared three variables a, b and c, and we returned the sum of these three arguments which were passed to this function. We took the result and printed the result. Now there is one more way in which we can declare the functions, and this is using lambda functions. Lambda functions are used to declare small anonymous functions defined using lambda keyword. They are often used for simple operations. For example, so here you can see that in one line we declared the function add, and we took three numbers, passed those three arguments, obtained the result. There's another way of declaring functions, which is using method functions. Now functions defined within classes are called methods. They take the instance itself as the first parameters. We will be covering the concept of method functions when we cover the concept of classes in detail. Now let's move on to call and use the function. Now to call a function, we use the name of the function followed by parentheses and provide any required arguments. For example, as we have used in this function, use the name of the function and the required arguments were passed. Now, one important thing which you should take care is to ensure that you have passed the correct number of arguments in the correct order as specified by the function's definitions. Now, in this small function which we have declared, where we are just adding a, b and c, it might not be making a big difference. But when the calculations or the parameters being passed are more, there can be a confusion. So one has to pass the correct number of arguments and in the correct order. Another point to remember is that if the function returns a value, then store it in a variable or use it as needed. In our example, we have stored whatever the values were returned in a result in both the cases. Now, the next important point to be kept in mind is that when a function has optional arguments with default values, you can call it without providing those arguments and the defaults will be used. For example, in this, if I modify this function as even if we forget pass this argument, we will be getting a result. Yeah. So you can see that the defaults will be used if we do not pass any arguments to this function. One important thing which generally people forget is understanding the scope of variables used in the functions. Variables declared inside a function are local to that function unless explicitly marked as global or non-local. We will be covering the concept of global variables in a separate video. That's all for today's video on function declaration and usage. Hope you have liked the video. Please like, share and subscribe if you found the content useful. Thank you.